Oh, no way. It's giant. It's huge. After the last couple of years of pandemics and panic buying, I thought it would be a good idea to try and become a little more self-sufficient. So I decided to start a vegetable garden. But how much food can I actually grow from this small garden, and would I save money doing so? It is the first week of 2021 and I'm sat in my garden at home because you're not allowed to do anything else right now. It's been extremely cold, wet and windy, which has caused a little bit of damage to some parts of the garden. My pizza oven, which I so much love using in the summer months, got very wet this year and has actually collapsed, which I'm very sad about. So I'm gonna need to sort that out. After observing the mess that was my garden, I started writing up a plan, which you could describe looked more like a 5-year-old kid's drawing. I should point out that I live with 2 other people, so I couldn't just go digging up the whole garden. I was allowed 1/3 of the space, which is 15 square meters. At the beginning of the year, the garden had some grasses, some other plants in it, and also a slack line, like a balancing rope, that I used every now and then to practice my balancing. But all that would have to come out. Once the slack line was all dug up and pulled out, I then got to work digging over the patch. I dug over the garden, and at this point I realised it was incredibly solid clay ground, which made it very hard to dig. So I was going to have to make some adjustments to that later on in the year. I would have liked to get cracking straight away and build the raised beds and get planting, but the winter was just relentless. It just went on and on and on. Well, it's such an exciting day for a Southern English person like me because, as you can see, it snowed. We can make some snowmen, play snowball fights, and also eat the snow. So many fun things to do. But it is annoying because it's mid-February now. My vegetable patch is gonna have to be delayed still. I'll see you in a few weeks when it's 15 degrees and sunny and warm and spring is in the air. Because of the weather conditions, I couldn't do much at all. But there was one job that I had to get on with, and that was destroying the old pizza oven, removing it from the base so that it was ready to rebuild again. And there we go, the old oven is gone. The base that it sits on is now clear, ready to be built on again. I've just got to have a think about how I'm going to do it this time because I don't want it to break in the winter when it gets cold and wet. Finally, by the end of March, things were starting to warm up a little. And although the garden was still completely waterlogged and I couldn't do anything with that, I could start thinking about what I wanted to grow. And so I started ordering bulbs, seeds, and when I started receiving them in the post, yeah, that's when things got more exciting. I bought a selection of seeds from carrots to cucumbers, even some of James Wong's purple carrots. Also, I didn't forget my sugar snap peas and tomatoes. I also unboxed a load of garlic, shallots and onion sets, and I was quite excited to get them in the ground. I also had some seed potatoes arrive in the post. And basically chitting is the process of sprouting the potato indoors in like a warmer place, and it gave them a chance to sprout, you know, get a head start. And then when I put them in the ground, they would be already ready and growing, and then hopefully they would grow quite quickly. That's the theory anyway, that's what I read in a book. So there are 2 varieties of potatoes prepared. Over the next month, apparently they are supposed to start to sprout, and then they'll be ready to put in the garden. I also started germinating some seeds as well. I did some tomatoes, cucumbers, chilies, various other things as well. But yeah, the whole process of germinating is like super fascinating, and it's just like a fun thing to do. You put a seed in some soil, and then over the course of a week or 2, you watch it become another plant. It is like magic, or it seems like that to me, because I have no knowledge of how science works. I've got a saw, there's a hazel bush behind me, and I'm going to get to work and cut off some branches to use as a trellis to grow peas up. A few weeks later and spring was finally here, and because the ground had started drying out, I could start building my raised vegetable beds. Now the reason for making raised beds rather than just putting the vegetables straight in the ground was that I wanted to add compost to the soil. The soil in my garden is so sticky and compressed that water doesn't go through it. So my aim was to create these vegetable beds, fill them up with a mix of the clay and some compost that would loosen the soil and create a better growing medium for the plants. Until quite recently, I have very ignorantly thought that soil was just dirt. It was just this brown stuff on the ground which had no real purpose, and it was annoying when it got on your clothes and made them all dirty. But how wrong I was. Soil is firstly incredibly complex, and secondly it's incredibly important for life. It's a mix of minerals, nutrients, bacteria, fungi, animals like worms, millipedes. Basically what I'm saying is it is a living thing. It is very important, and you need your soil to be good quality if you're going to be able to grow vegetables and have food to eat. Finally, it is time to start growing some vegetables. In fact, I've already started. I have been very eager to get going and start planting a few bits. And I think I'm going to do some carrots today. And then I've also got some onions, some garlic, some shallots. So I've got plenty of stuff to get going. And also those potatoes that I prepared has actually started sprouting, so they would be ready to plant very soon. But the first thing I actually put in the ground were onions. And I bought these as sets. Now sets are basically just like baby onions that you put in the ground, and over the course of the year, hopefully, they expand into great big bulbous beauties that you can put in your bolognese. So I put them in the ground just with the tips just poking out. That's how Yemena apparently do it. And yeah, basically just left them. I think I planted 60 or 70 of those. So if they all were to turn into big onions, it was going to be a pretty good harvest. Today is actually going to be the first time of my life where I've tried planting potatoes. So please bear with me if I'm doing everything wrong. 4 inches deep, 30 centimeters apart, 45 centimeters between rows. Let's get planting then. One of my fondest memories as a kid was when we were driving back from holiday. I think it was in Somerset. In the distance I saw what looked like a pyramid. And as we got closer, I realised it was no pyramid. It was a mountain of potatoes. I'm gonna shut up and plant some more potatoes. And there we have it, the potatoes are in the ground. I think they take around 100 days, so I've just got to be patient. But I'm looking forward to it because I absolutely love thick cut fried chips or roast potatoes on a Sunday afternoon. With plenty of stuff in the ground, I then patiently waited. Now plants grow by photosynthesis using sunlight and CO2, carbon dioxide from the air, and convert that into sugars which they use as energy to grow. They also take up nutrients from the ground through their roots. I think the main ones that gardeners talk about are nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. There's also a ton of other things that plants need, but yeah, those things are necessary for plants to thrive. And so I hoped that my soil would be, good enough. The only thing I really had to do regularly was water the plants. So most mornings I would put my finger down into the soil, check whether it was dry or not, and then water if necessary. And throughout parts of the spring, we had some proper dry, hot weather, and I had to water like twice a day and keep on top of that. I lost a number of spring onions because I just forgot to water one day, and they all just frizzled up and died. But other than that, I pretty much just waited, got on with my life, and and waited patiently. Whilst I let the plants grow, I found the time to rebuild the pizza oven, and a couple of friends helped me out with this. Firstly, we made a large mound of sand. This would create the oven space inside. Over this we lay some sheets of newspaper to stop the clay from sticking to the sand. And then we finally built up a number of layers of clay. For the entrance to the oven, we built a brick arch, which I quite like the look of. The wooden former was removed and I put on another couple of layers of clay. I could then scrape away all the sand from the inside of the oven, which reveals the newspaper that I used. That will quickly burn away once the oven is lit. A final layer of outdoor cement was added to make sure it was waterproof. It was good to finally get that project out the way, and hopefully it would last a little longer than last year's one. As well as my 15 square metre patch in the garden, my dad, who lives 15 minutes down the road, very kindly let me use his greenhouse to grow some other stuff. I've got 2 cucumber plants which have just decided to go crazy and spread all over the place. Then I've got a couple of courgette plants as well, which are looking good. Yeah, thanks Dad for letting me use this little space. Quick update on the garden. Everything is growing so much. When you last saw it, these were all pretty much bare. Check out the potatoes. They have grown so much. Look at that. I've got 2 different varieties of potatoes. And I've got some tomatoes over there. Check out these. This is so cool. So these are sugar snap peas. They grow like these whiskers and they use them to attach themselves to the thing that they're climbing up so they can go right to the top. And I've got loads of carrots that I've been growing from seed, onions, garlic, even some strawberry plants, some courgette plants. The list goes on and on and on. We're gonna have so much food later on this year if it doesn't all die. Fingers crossed. Fast forward to the 3rd of July, I think it was, 100 days after I planted the potatoes, and I decided to have a little look and see if they were ready to harvest. Here goes, see what we got. Oh, no way! That's way better than I thought I had. Whoa! There's lots of small ones as well. Oh, that's a beast! Wow, it's going straight in my basket. That there is the potato which I planted, the seed potato. Ended up with all these other ones. This is fun, this is like digging up treasure. I was quite impressed with the result. I managed to fill a nice little basket full. I know it could have been better. I would have preferred if all of them were a bit bigger. But, you know, first crop of potatoes, I was quite happy. And I still had 1 more row that I was going to harvest a bit later on in the year. However, not everything in the garden was flourishing. And for reasons I just didn't have a clue. Well, these courgette plants just don't look very happy. And I don't have a clue why. This one, however, look at that, it's a beast. The biggest pest we have in this garden are slugs. Now, I'm not gonna lie, they are my least favorite living organism on Earth. It's probably because I had a bad experience with slugs in the past. I was out camping one night and a slug had crawled up my body, over my mouth, and I woke up to a slug on my mouth. I pulled it away and it like peeled off and it left like a layer of slime on my face. What is that? My tomatoes are being eaten. Oh, they just keep eating the courgettes as well. Maybe I need to get chickens. Chickens eat slugs as well. That might be the way forward. But yeah, slugs are a right pain. I also had some sort of disease on my tomatoes. I think it was blight. Because one of the plants just went really black and everything died. Still though, a couple of tomatoes managed to survive and I managed to get them a bit later on in the year. See, these ones are starting to go red, and then the further we go on, the better they get actually. Look at that, as a full set. Every single flower produced a tomato. But other than the diseases and the slugs and what have you, Things started to get really hectic late in the summer, and the harvests were coming in thick and fast.
Well, that has to be my biggest cucumber yet. Look at that. Oh, nice. Oh, there's some baby birds stuck in the greenhouse. Oh, it's okay, it's okay.
At the beginning of August, I pulled up all my garlic, shallots and onions. The crop was massive, and there was probably going to be enough to last me throughout the whole winter. So I needed to prepare these onions so that they lasted me a long time. And you do this through a process called curing. And it's basically by drying out the outside layers of the onions, it protects the inner capsule and makes them last a lot longer. So I put them out in the sun for a few days and then left them in the conservatory for probably 4 weeks, and the whole outside layer dried out. They were ready to store. I put them into sacks, and yeah, holding a sack of my own homegrown onions was a very good feeling, I have to say.
So it was a good day of harvesting today. I've got a couple of Hessian sacks full of potatoes, and also half filled this bag with some shallots. And we've still got quite a lot to go, so things are looking quite good.
And by this point in the season, I was actually regularly getting enough food to not have to get any vegetables from the supermarket. I had garlic, onions, courgettes, tomatoes, peas. Like, I actually had enough for at least a few weeks of the year, which was an incredible feeling.
It's giant. It's huge. What?
You've broken a world record.
That must weigh as much as a baby. Oh.
It's not even that funny, it's just Alex's laugh that made it me.
Look at it. Woo. Just been preparing some of my potatoes for roast dinner tonight. They are super fresh and they're really firm, and I'm just boiling them, and then I'm gonna roast them for dinner. Also, shout out to Mick from Breakfast Knives. He made me this sweet kitchen knife, even carved my initials into it. I've been using this for the past few months for my cooking, and it's very nice. Cool, look at that. That is from my own tomatoes. You happy with that harvest? It's alright, yeah. I wanted them all to be this big, not that big. That was one of the last harvests of the year. I'm quite happy with that. First year growing potatoes.
So the big question is, how much food did I actually grow from my small 15 square metre space? Bear in mind that I didn't have a clue what I was doing most of the time. Also, was it cost effective? Did I save money by growing food myself rather than going to the supermarket? Well, I have some statistics here, some numbers. The exact amounts of harvest are as follows. 5 kilograms of cucumbers, 1 kilogram of spring onions, 4.9 kilograms of courgettes, 7.5 kilograms of potatoes, 3 kilograms of carrots. By the way, all my purple ones died. 1.1 kilograms of tomatoes, 1.1 kilograms of shallots, 25 bulbs, 500 grams of garlic, and a whopping 10 kilograms of onions, which were definitely my best crop. I looked at the prices of the local supermarket's vegetables and compared the exact weight of what I'd grown and translated it to like how much it would have actually cost me to buy that same amount from the supermarket. And I grew the equivalent of a grand total of 600 and, no, I'm joking, 64 pounds of vegetables. 64 British money pounds, not weight. Seeing as I spent no less than that on the compost itself, and then the same amount on the wood for the raised beds, and the tools and the seeds, I didn't earn any money. I lost quite a bit of money, actually. You've got to remember though, this was my first year doing it. And of course, there was lots of startup costs that I wouldn't have next year. So I may not have actually saved any money this year, but I feel happy to know a lot more about plants and how they grow. Also, I appreciate a lot more when I buy food from the shop, and also when I eat stuff that I've grown myself. I appreciate how much time and work has actually gone into it, because I've seen the whole process now from beginning to end. But for now, my next project that I'm working on is something completely different. It's beekeeping. My aim over the following year is to get some honey from my pet bees. So stay tuned for that, because I'm going to make a video of the whole beekeeping project. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.